Now, good afternoon, class. This aspect of this course, FSC 114, I'm going to be taking you real number system. And by name, Mr. Mufuta Rahman Adegoke. My phone number is 081-266-86775, and my email is amufuta@unilag.edu.ng. If you have any issue or any problem regarding to this course, you can kindly mail me, send me an email, or you send me a WhatsApp message with this number. And my office is also open, Mathematics Department, room 321. Now, as I said, I will be taking you real number system. Let's see. Now, when we talk about real number system, the first aspect of it that we are going to look at is what is called radical expression. In our secondary school, we did SOD in math. SOD is just the same thing like a radical expression. Any expression that you see inside square root is what is called radical expression. As we all know that if I write square root of a number, it's just the same thing as saying that number raised to power 1/2. If I write 3 cube or the cube root of a number, is just by saying that number raised to power of 1/3. Then if I have, in general, if I have the nth root of a number, let's say a, it can also be written as a raised to power of what? 1/n, where n is a positive integer. N is a positive integer, that is, can be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Now, the number, the a, is what is called the principal, and we have some property for this radical. The first property is when you have, let's say we have nth root of a number, let's say a, and another nth root of another number, let's say b. If they are both real number, then the first property is that if you multiply nth root of a times nth root of b, since they are both nth root, then we can pick the nth root, then we multiply the number inside the word, the radical. That is why we have the what? The nth root of what? AB. For example, if I have square root of 3 times square root of 2, since they are both square root, then I will just write square root of what? 2 times 3. That's just the example on that. Now, the second property, if I have the nth root of an irrational number, let's say a divided by b, the nth root of what? A divided by b. Then since a divided by b, they are both inside the nth root, then I can separate a and b. Then it's going to give me what? The nth root of a divided by what? The nth root of b, where b can never be equals to 0, because if b is equals to 0, then the equation will be what? Undefined. Now, the third property, if I have nth root of m inside another nth root of a, if I have nth root of a, that is m root of n root of a, then since they are both m and n, I can combine that m and n, then I have m times n root of a. It will not be mn root of what? Of a. Then your a must be greater than or equals to 0. Take note of this. Any number you want to have inside the radical must be positive. That is why we said a is greater than or equals to 0. If it is not positive, then the function will not be real. It's going to be complex function or complex number. The last property here is when you have the nth root of a raised to power of m, then you can write it as what? Nth root of a, everything raised to power of what? Of m. This can also be simplified again to give us a raised to power of what? M times 1/n. Since we know that nth root of a is 1/a raised to power of what? 1/n. Then that one will give me what? A raised to power of what? M times 1/n. At the end of the day, it's going to give me a raised to power of what? M divided by n. Those are the properties of the radical. Let's look at the following example. to showcase the explanation. The first one, we want to simplify the third root of 8 raised to power 5. Now look at this from the property, the last property. I can write it as well. The third root of 8, everything raised to power 5. Then the third root of 8. 8 can be written as what? 2 raised to power 3. Or the third root of 8 is 2. Then everything raised to power 5. Then 2 raised to power 5 is what? Is 32. That is the first one. Look at the second one. The third root of 27 raised to power of y raised to power of what? 18. I repeat, the third root of 27 divided by y raised to power 18. Then from the property 2, I can split the third root for the rational number. That is, I will write it as third root of 27 divided by third root of y raised to power of what? 18. The third root of 27 is 3. The third root of y raised to power 18 can be written as what? The third root of can be written as y raised to power 18 divided by 3, which is what? Y raised to power 6. And that is why we have that. The third example, we have square root of 5 times square root of 10. Since they are both square roots, look at the property 1. We are going to see that we are going to have square root of what? 5 times 10, which is what? Square root of 50. Then we can still simplify square root of 50 further. Then we are going to have 5 root 2. That is the solution to that example 3. If you look at example 4, it's just to simplify. This example 4 can be solved in different way. The first one is we have 4 root 2 minus 1 divided by root 8 plus root 32. And this can be simplified to be equals 4 root of 2 minus, I can simplify square root of 8 to be 2 root 2 plus square root of 32 can be written as square root of 16 times square root of 2. And at the end of the day, I have 4 root 2 times square root of 16 is 4. Then I have 4 root 2 minus 1 divided by 2 root 2 plus 4 root 2. From there, I can combine. Since 4 root 2, I can combine 4 root 2 and 4 root 2. 4 root 2 plus 4 root 2 will give me what? 8 root 2 minus 1 divided by 2 root 2. Then if you simplify them, root 2 can be brought out. We are going to have the answer to be 31 over 4 root 2. That's just the application to the radical number. Just take it one after the other, follow the step, we are going to understand it. Now, the next thing we want to look at now is what is called rationalization, or rationalizing the radical expression. Still remember, in our secondary school, we did rationalization of surd. It's just the same thing. Another name for surd is the radical expression. Now, look at this example. If you have a square root at the denominator, then if you want to rationalize, you are going to multiply both numerator and the denominator of the expression by the conjugate of the denominator. When you say conjugate, what that means? Conjugate means you are going to change the sign in front of the what? Of the square root of the surd or the radical expression. Like now, we have 3 plus root 5 to be the radical. Then the conjugate of 3 plus root 5 is going to be what? 3 minus root 5. Then if I multiply it by the whole expression, the expression is 2 divided by 3 plus root 5. Then I multiply by the conjugate of the denominator, which is 3 minus root 5. Then if I multiply, then I simplify it. If I simplify it, then at the end of the day, my answer will just be what? 3 minus root 5 divided by 2. That will be my answer. You can apply the same method. Now look at this. The one I did, first one, is we use what is called rationalization of denominator. You can also rationalize numerator. Anywhere we have the radical expression, that is where we are going to rationalize. The first question, we rationalize denominator. Why this example 2? Since we have the radical expression at the numerator, then we are going to rationalize the numerator. And at the end of the day, you will see that I'm going to have this. It's explanatory enough. You can just go through it. Now, the next thing we want to look at now is what is called radical equation. We have done expression. Now, the difference between expression and equation is that expression, you are not going to have an equals to sign. There is nothing you want to find. But in an equation, you are going to have equals to. Then it means there's going to be a variable that you are going to look for. That is just the difference between expression and equation. Look at this example. We have square root of 2x minus 5 minus square root of x minus 3 equals 1. The expression has a variable which is x. Then we have equals to 1. Then this tells us that we are going to find the value for what? For x. Now we have other example. Look at this example 1. Find the real solution of this equation. 3 root 2x minus 4 minus 2 equals to 0. Sorry, the square root or the cube root covered both 2x minus 4. It's covered. That is why we have the third root of 2x minus 4 minus 2 equals to 0. Now, if you want to solve this question, the first thing is you take the constant term to that equals to sign, so that we are going to have radical expression in one side, the constant term in another side. That is why we have the cube root of 2x minus 4 equals 2. I've taken the minus 2 to the other side. Then for me to remove the cube root, what am I going to do? I'm going to cube everything. That is why I have the cube of 2x minus 4. We cancel the word, the cube root equals 2 raised to power of 3. Then I have 2x minus 4 equals 8, because 2 raised to power of 3 is 8. Then if you collect item, you have 2x equals 8 plus 4, which is 12. Then 2x equals 12, s is equals to 6. Just direct. This one is very easy because we have just one radical expression. What if I have two radical expression plus a constant? Then that is another way. It will take us to example 2. If you look at this example 2, we want to find the real solution of the equation x minus 3, the square root of x minus 3 plus square root of what? S plus 5 equals 4. Now, you now see that we have two radical, square root of x minus 3 and square root of what? S plus 5 equals to 4. Then what am I going to do? To solve this, you are going to take one radical to the other side. It means you are going to have one radical in one side and the other radical in the other side, so that I will be able to remove the radical sign. That is why I have x minus the square root of x minus 3 equals, I've transferred s plus 5 to the other side, equals 4 minus square root of what? S plus 5. I have transferred that. Then for me to remove the square root sign, I'm going to square both sides. Then if I square both sides, I have square root of x minus 3 all square equals 4 minus square root of x plus 5 all square. Then square root will cancel square. I have x minus 3 equals, if I expand the right hand side, 4 times 4 will give me 16. 4 times square root of s plus 5 will give me 4s plus 4, square root of s plus 5. And also the second one, at the end of the day, if I combine the two, I have 8 root s plus 5 plus s plus root s plus 5 times root s plus 5 is going to give me what? S plus 5. Just make sure you understand the expansion of the radical. At the end of the day, I collect item. If I collect item, bring s together, bring the numbers together, I'm going to have minus 24 equals minus 8 root of s plus 5. The minus can cancel minus, 8 can go in 24, I have 3. Then if you solve it very well, you'll see that at the end of the day, the value of x, which is the unknown, is going to be 4. Please just follow the step. It's very explanatory. If you don't understand, go through it more than once. Now, the next thing we want to look at is equation that involve absolute value. Equation that involve absolute value. Now, if a is greater than 0. Then an algebraic expression, square root of x is equals to x equals minus a, or s equals to a. What it means is that whenever you have the absolute value, either the number in that absolute is positive or negative, you are going to have positive. Example, absolute value of 2 is 2. Absolute value of minus 2 is also 2. That is just the explanation of this. Now, example, if you want to solve this equation, look at this. This equation involves absolute value. The absolute value of x plus 4 equals 13. Two possible or possibility. I said when you have absolute value of a, it can be a is equals to a. Absolute value of minus a is also equals to a. Now, the two possibility of this is that absolute value of x plus 4, it can be what? X plus 4 equals to 13, or minus x plus 4 equals to 13, because the absolute value can be x plus 4 or minus x plus 4. Then at the end of the day, if I first consider positive, I have x plus 4 equals 13, or if I consider the negative, I have minus into x plus 4 equals to 13. Then if I transfer that minus, that is why I have x plus 4 minus 13. Then if you collect light, and you see that what? S equals 13 minus 4, which is 9, or s equals minus 13 minus 4, which is equals to what? Minus 17. Those are the possible values of x. Either x is what? Minus 17 or 9. Those are the solutions of values of x. Now, the next thing we want to look at now is inequality. Inequality. And inequality is a sentence or an expression with this following sign: less than, greater than, less than, greater than, or equals to, or greater than or equals to. Now, this inequality sign is not telling us an absolute value. You are going to be having the range of value. If I have x is less than or equals to 2, it means x can be 1, can be minus 3, it can be anything, but it is less, that those things must be less than or equals to 2. It means you cannot have exact value for what? For that x. That is just the meaning of inequalities. Now, we have some properties of inequality. The first property that we want to look at, let's consider if you have a, b, c to be a real number. If a is less than b, what it means is that if a is less than b, then when you add a number to a and b, then that number you add to a will still be less than the number you add to b. That is why we have a plus c is still less than what? B plus c. That is the first property. That is, if I have 1 is less than 2, then if I add 3 to both sides, I'm going to have 1 plus 3, which is 4, and 2 plus 3, which is 5. Then you will see that 4 is also less than 5. The second property, if I have a less than b and I multiply with a constant number, and if that number is positive, that inequality will still hold. That is, if I multiply with c and that c is a positive number, then ac is still less than what? Bc. But if the number I'm multiplying with is negative number, then the inequality sign will change. That is, if I have 2 less than 3, then I multiply by 2, then I still retain my inequality. It's going to be 4 less than 6. But if I have 2 less than 3 and I multiply with what? Minus 1, then I have minus 2, the sign must change, is greater than minus 3. That is just the explanation of the properties of what? Inequalities. Now, let's look at example. We have two examples. The first example is 3x minus 5 is less than 6 minus 2x. Now, it is very easy. Here, we can collect like term. If I collect like term, you will see that I can bring 2x to go and make 3x. Then I have 3x plus 2x is less than 6 plus 5. Then I have 5x is less than 11. Then x is less than 11 over 5. That is just the solution to the first problem. You can apply the same thing to the second problem. Now, this is double inequality. Whatever you are doing to the first side, you must also do it to the second side. That is what it means. Now, I want to find the value for x, the second question. The first thing I will do is to take minus 5 over 3 to what? To the other side of the inequality. Then it means if I can have minus 2 minus 5 over 3 is less than or equals to minus 3x less than 5 minus 5 over 3. Then at the end of the day, if you simplify it, you are going to find the values of x. There is minus, we still have minus 3x. It means if we want to divide through by minus 3x, the sign, inequality sign will change. You can finish it up. Now, the next thing we want to look at now is what is called inequality with what? Absolute value. Just as I explained the meaning of absolute value, the same thing still applicable. If you have the absolute value of x is less than a, its equivalent form is minus a is less than x less than a. It means the absolute value will go. We have considered both positive of x and the negative of x. That is why we have minus a less than x less than a. That is the first property of absolute value. Now, when we have absolute value of x greater than a, listed the equivalent, we cannot combine this one. If you have greater than, you cannot combine it. You will need to split it. The first splitting will be x is less than minus a, while the second splitting will be what? S is greater than what? A. But the first one, where you have less than, you can combine it. That is just. Now, the following are the properties or other properties of what? Absolute. We know that absolute value of any number is positive. That's why I said if you have absolute value of minus 2 is equals to 2. We have absolute value of 2 is also equals to 2. That is why anything you put inside absolute must give you what? Positive. It's going to be 0 if that number is what? 0. The second property here is if you have absolute value of AB, I can split it to be absolute value of A times what? Absolute value of B. Another one is if I have absolute value of A divided by B, I can also split it to be absolute value of A divided by what? Absolute value of B. Now, the fourth one, if I have absolute value of A raised to power 2, that 2 can enter inside that what? Absolute value. Yes, and you are going to have what? Absolute value of A squared, which is written as A squared. The fifth and the sixth is what is called triangular rule. If you have absolute value of A plus B, so is less than or equals to absolute value of A plus absolute value of B. That can be proved, but you don't need it for this course. The last one is when you have absolute value of A minus B is greater than or equals to absolute value of A minus absolute value of B. You see, from plus less than or equals to, but for minus is greater than, then you can transform it. That is why we have A minus B is less than or equals to what? A minus absolute value of what? A minus B. That is just that. Let's apply them to this following example. The first one, absolute value of 3 minus 7x divided by 2 less than or equals to 12. Now, we are going to do this, but let me explain. If you want to remove this absolute, you are going to have minus 12 is less than or equals to 3 minus 7x divided by 2 less than or equals to 12. You have seen that I've removed the absolute. Then at the end of the day, you can just simplify. The first thing you will do is that you multiply through by 2 so that that 2 at the denominator will go. Then you now simplify. It's going to be minus 24 is less than or equals to 3 minus 7x less than 24. Then you can collect like term. You can do the other one, is going to be very, very easy. Now, the same thing, look at the second one. Absolute value of minus 5 minus 2s is greater than or equals to 1. And I've explained this, the second property of absolute value of inequality, that I said you cannot combine greater than or equals to. Then you can split it. It's going to be what? 5 minus 2x less than or equals to minus 1, or 5 minus 2s greater than or equals to 1. Then you simplify them and you get two values for what? For x. That's just on that. Now, that is the end of inequality or radical expression and absolute value. We want to look at an important topic now, which is quadratic equation. Quadratic equation. Firstly, you remember in secondary school, we also did what is called quadratic equation. We did quadratic equation in secondary school, if you can remember, we did that. Now, we said we have four different methods of solving quadratic equation, if you can remember. The first one, factorization method. The second one, completing the square method. The third one, quadratic formula. While the last one is graphical method. But for this course, we are not going to look at graphical method. It's not so important. Even completing the square method is not also very important. It's not very important because your exam is going to be an objective, and no one will tell you using the completing the square, but you can be test on the what? On the derivation of the formula. Just understand those methods. Now, let's see. A quadratic equation is an equation of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, where a, b, c is a member of R, that is, a, b, c are real number, and a is not equals to 0. Yes, a cannot be equals to 0, because if a is equals to 0, then it is no more a what? A quadratic equation. It's going to form linear equation. A must not be equals to 0. Then we have the method, and I've explained this equation can be solved with the four method. But now the first method we are going to look at is factorization method. I think factorization method is very, very general and is common. When you want to look at example, solve x squared minus 3x minus 4 equals to 0. This is three equation. If you want to factorize, you know the method. You are going to make the equation to be what? To be 4. 4 term. We have 3 term. We need to make it to be 4 term. And the rule is that you multiply the first term, that is the coefficient, or the term with x squared, and the last term, which is the constant term. Now, if I do that now, I have what? X squared times minus 4. I'm going to have what? Minus 4x squared. Then I look for two factors of this product, that is two factor of what? Minus 4x squared. And this two factor means two numbers that I'm going to multiply together, that is going to give me what? Minus 4x squared. Then if I add those two numbers together or subtract, it must give me what? Minus 3x squared. And the numbers are what? X and minus 4x. Now, x times minus 4x is going to give me what? Minus 4x squared. Then x minus 4x will give me what? Minus 3x. It means those are the factor. Then if I have them, I will replace it with what? Minus 3x. Then the expression will be x squared minus 4x plus x. Then I can now group them 2 by 2. I'm going to group x squared and minus 4x, also x and minus 4. Now, between x squared and minus 4x, what is common? X is common. Then if I bring the x out, I have x in x squared remain x in minus 4x is remain minus 4, plus what is common between x and 4? There is nothing that is common. Then we assume 1 is common. Bring the 1 out. Then I have 1 in x will give me x. 1 in minus 4 will still give me minus 4. At the end of it, we'll see that now my bracket, what I have in the first bracket must be the same with what I'm going to have in the second bracket when I get to this stage. Otherwise, what you are doing is wrong. Then now, since they are the same, s minus 1 and s minus 4, then I can combine those factors that I brought out, that is x plus 1 times what? X minus 4. Then everything is equal to what? 0. Then I will now pick them one by one. X plus 1 equals to 0, or x minus 4 equals to 0. Then from there I can say that what? S is equals to minus 1, or s equals to what? Minus 4. That is how to use factorization. That is how to, it means the two root of the equation is what? Minus 4 and 4. And this root they can also call it the zeros of the equation. I may not ask you to factorize or to find the root. I can just ask you to find zeros of the equation. I can give you now. Whenever you are given quadratic equation, you are expected to get what? Two values of x, or two roots. If you are given polynomial like power 3, you are going to get value of what? 3 value, 3 values of x. Power 4, you are going to get 4 value, and so on. That is factorization method. The next one that I want to look at is completing the square method. As I said, actually you don't really need the proof of completing the square method for this course, because your this course is an objective course, that your exam is going to be an object, but it's good you know how to prove it, because you can be tested for the states. Now look at this, the step, go and revise, go and learn it back. Now the first step of completing the square method is, when you have a quadratic equation, ax square plus bx plus c equals to 0, then you want to use completing the square method. The first method is, you are going to transfer the constant term, which is c, to the right hand side. Then I'm going to have what? Ax square plus bx equals c. That is the first step. If I apply the same thing to this question, I want to find the zeros of x square minus 6x minus 10 by completing the square method. The first method is transfer the constant term. The constant term here is what? Is 10. If I transfer it, I'm going to have x square minus 6 equals to 10. That is the first method. That is the first thing that I'm going to do. Now after that, I'm going to divide. Now you now get the coefficient of what? The coefficient of s square. That can be first or second, anyone. The coefficient of s square, I'm going to divide through by the coefficient of s square. Here, coefficient of s square here is 1. That is why that one does not have effect in the whole expression. Now the third step is that you are going to find the half of coefficient of x. Coefficient of x here is what? Minus 6. Then the half of that coefficient of x is going to give me what? Minus 6 divided by 2, which is what? Minus 3. Then I will now square it. If I square it, I'm going to have minus 3 raised to power 2. Then I add it to what? The both side of the expression. That is why I have x squared minus 6x plus minus 3 square is 9 plus 9. And I also have it in the right hand side as 10 plus 9. Now, this left hand side, x squared minus 6x plus 9 can also be written as x minus 3 all square. And if you add 9 plus 10, we are going to have 19. Then from here, we can remove the what? The square. Then if I remove the square, then I have the square root on the other side. I have x minus 3 equals. Now if you want to put square root, you must consider plus or minus. And what is the reason? You must have two values for x. That is why I have plus or minus square root of 19. Then if you collect light, and you have x equals 3 plus or minus square root of what? 19. What it means is that s can be what? 3 plus square root of 19, or s can be 3 minus square root of 19, and the values are 7.359 and minus 1.359. Those are the roots of the equation. Now the next one of the method, the next method is what is called quadratic formula. Some people also call it almighty formula. I don't know what is almighty there, but it's quadratic, maybe because it can solve any form of quadratic. That is why they call it almighty. Yes, but the name is quadratic formula. Now, the formula can also be gotten directly from completing the square. And what is the formula? S is equals to minus b plus or minus square root of what? B square minus 4ac divided by 2a. The reason why this formula is so important is that it's not all quadratic equation that you can factorize. It's not all quadratic equation that you can what? You can use factorization method. That is why this formula is very, very important, because it can solve any quadratic equation. Now, let's see. If you apply the formula, if you have from the formula ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0, that is why we have the formula. Now, if you now want to apply, solve the equation x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals to 0. From the equation, we see that my a is equals to 1, my b is equals to 2, and my c is equals to what? Minus 8. If you substitute that into the what? Into the formula, you are going to see that the values of x is equals to 2 and minus 4. Now, we want to look at some theory of quadratic equation. When I say theory of quadratic equation, we are going to be looking at the sum and product of a root of a quadratic equation. As I explained to you, the values of x, they are the root of the equation or zeros of the equation. Now, if I have, when you solve a quadratic equation, you are going to have two roots or two zeros. Then how can I add those two values together, or how can I multiply together? Then I can show that using quadratic theory. Then at the end of the day, I'm going to have this. When you say addition, let's assume that let alpha and beta be the roots or the zeros of the quadratic equation. What it means is that the first, values of root, or the root of the equation is going to be 2. The first root is alpha. I can say alpha equals minus b plus square root of what? B square minus 4ac over 2a. And beta is going to be what? Minus b minus square root of what? B square minus 4a over 2a. And that is what we spread here. Now, if I want to find the sum, it means I'm going to add alpha plus beta. If I add alpha plus beta, at the end of the day, I'm going to have minus b over a. If I multiply alpha and beta, I'm going to have c over a. It means the sum of root is going to be what? Minus b over a, and the product of root is going to be what? C over a. Please take note of this so that you now see the application of it. In general, the quadratic equation can also be written as s squared minus sum of the root multiplied by x plus product of the root equals to 0, plus product of the root equals to what? 0. Now, this is not so important. Let me leave it. Now, we want to look at some properties of the root. The first one is symmetric property. Symmetric property, and I've explained the sum. Now, we want to look at some property. The first one, they can ask you to find, we know alpha plus, we know the sum. With the knowledge of the sum of root and product of root, we can find the following. The first one, if you have alpha minus beta, it's equivalent in form of product and sum is equals to square root of what? Alpha plus beta square minus 4 alpha beta. This can be proved, yes, but trying to go through it and you understand it. When you have alpha square minus beta square, its equivalent is also what? Alpha plus beta, alpha minus beta. You can do that. Alpha square plus beta square is equivalent is what? Alpha plus beta all square minus what? 2 alpha beta. If you look at what are we doing here, we are expressing all this, my left hand side, my right hand side, in form of what? Alpha plus beta and what? Alpha beta, in form of sum and product of root. And those are the symmetric property. You can go through it, you will see that You understand? Now, if you want to get the application of it, look at this. Example 1. Given the quadratic equation, 3x squared minus 7x minus 1 equals to 0. What do you expect to do? We want to find alpha minus beta. We want to find those symmetric property. The first thing you need to do whenever you are given a quadratic equation, you need to get sum of the roots and product of the roots. Now, sum of the roots from here, if you look at the general equation is x squared minus sum of the root x plus product of roots. Now, here I need to make my x squared to have coefficient 1. That is, I'm going to divide through by what? By 3. Then I have x squared equals what? Minus 7 over 3x minus 1 over 3. From here, I will see that sum of root is going to be what? 7 over 3. And product of root is going to be what? Minus 1 over 3. Then if I apply it to the problem, it's very easy. Now, the first one, alpha minus beta, is just going to be what? Alpha plus beta, which is what? 7 over 3 square minus 4 times product of root is what? Minus 1 over 3. Then you get the answer. You can apply it to other one. It's very easy. These are the type of question you will see in your exam. It's very, very easy. The only thing you just need is what? Know how to get sum of root and also product of root. Then learn this symmetric property, then you'll be able to apply them. The next thing we want to look now is equation reducible to quadratic. Some equation, when you are given, is not going to be naturally quadratic, but you can what? You can transform them into what? Quadratic equation. Then you can now use the what? The method of solving quadratic. That is, let's look at, you can be given a polynomial of order 4, and that polynomial can be reduced to quadratic. You can also be given an you can be given a radical expression or a radical equation. Then you can reduce that radical equation to what? A quadratic equation. Let's look at example. Look at this. Solve x raised to power 4 minus 5x squared plus 4 equals to 0. This is a polynomial of order what? Order 4. But I can reduce it to what? To quadratic. What I just need to do is that I will just say let x raised to power 2 equals to y. If I say let x raised to power 2 equals to y, then it means I can change x raised to power 4 to what? Y square minus 5. X square, I will change it to y plus 4 equals to 0, and that is quadratic. Then after solving, then I'm going to go and substitute the values of y. Then I get the value of x. Remember, I've told you the root of the equation will be determined by the order of the what? Of the equation. The order of this equation is what? Polynomial of order 4. I must get 4 zeros or 4 values of what? X. That's how to solve the first one. Now, the second one, we also have an equation that is not quadratic. Now, I have 2x raised to power minus 2 plus x raised to power minus 1 minus 1 equals to 0. It's also very easy to reduce this. Something is common. X raised to power minus 1 is common, because I can factorize out x raised to power minus 1 from x raised to power minus 2. Yes. I will just say let x raised to power minus 1 equals p. Then I have 2p raised to power what? Raised to power 2 plus x raised to power minus 1 is p plus p equal minus 1 equals to 0. Then it will change to what? To quadratic. Then you can use any of the method to solve it. Also, this third one, I can also see that x raised to power 1 over 5 is also common, because I can get x raised to power 1 over 5 from x raised to power 2 over 5. Then if you just say let x raised to power 1 over 5 equals y, then I have y squared plus y minus 6 equals to 0, which is still quadratic. Then you solve. When you get the solution, then you get back the values of what? Of x. That is how to tackle reducible to quadratic equation. Now, I want to look at quadratic equation or quadratic inequality. I've explained inequalities to you. Just same thing to quadratic. Whenever you want to solve quadratic inequality, you are going to close your eyes as if the inequality sign is equals to, then when you solve it, then you now later apply the inequality rules that we learned the other time. That is just what I have to say here. Look at an example. For what values of x is this a real number? Now look at it. When you say is a real number, that is greater than or equals to 0. Now I have this, then when I solve, I have greater than or equals to, and I've told you, you cannot combine greater than or equals to, but you separate. What it means is that 5x minus 2x square, square root of 5x minus 2x square is less than or equals to 0, or 5x minus 2x square is greater than or equals to 0. That is the first thing. Then you start solving. Then at the end of the day, you get this. That's just how to apply the law of inequality that we did the other time. Now, lastly, we are going to look at logarithmic function. When you say logarithmic function, what we mean is that the logarithm function to the base, we did logarithm in secondary school. There is no difference. Just still go back to revise the law. Log a to 1 is 0. We all know that. Log a to a is 1. Log a to a raised to power p is what? P can come down, then it's going to be log a to a is 1. It's going to give you b. All the laws of logarithm still applicable, and that is just that. Now, we all these are just application of logarithm that we did in our secondary school. I don't think you have. Now lastly, we have exponential equation. Exponential equation is just like a quadratic equation, in which your e is standing for what? Is a number, or is variable. We are going to find the values of what? X. E is a number. When we want to solve this, the first thing is just say that let, you want to solve this type of question, just say let e raised to power of x equals to a variable, let's say y. If e raised to power of x is equals to y, then I can write it as what? Y plus y raised to power minus 1 minus c equals to 0. At the end of the day, you will see that we have y plus y raised to power minus 1 plus c equals to 0. And that y raised to power minus 1 can be written as 1 over y. If you combine it, it's going to form a quadratic equation. Then you solve for values of y. When you get value of y, remember, you are the one that introduced that y. What they ask you to get is x. Then you now say e raised to power x equals to y. What is the values of y? You just put e raised to power x equals the values of I. Then if you want to remove that e, you are going to take the lane of the what? Of the y side, and that is all. The same thing to this second question. Just say e raised to power x is equals to p. Then we have what? P square minus p equals to 6. Then you solve the quadratic. Now the lane, the third one, solve the lane. You are going to take the lane as if it's a log. Then you solve normally. That is where we are going to stop for this part of the course. I'm going to advise you, solve the exercise at the back of your textbook, that is exercise 2.17. Then whenever you have any issue or any problem, you can send me a mail, or you use the chat button in your LMS platform, or you send a WhatsApp message to me. Please go through the video, go through your material, solve question. You can go to YouTube to download a lot of videos on this topic, or all the FSC 114 topic. This is a new normal. You need to teach and put more effort, and also solve many questions. I'm going to post a quiz later on in the course, and also your exam will also follow. Remember, you have just 5 weeks to study for this course before your exam. I wish you all best of luck in your exam. Thank you.